Welcome to As Built, the podcast about architecture firms and buildings and how both get built. I am your host, Brian Jones. My guest today is design principal and founder of Ross Barney Architects and the recent recipient of the AIA Gold Medal, Carol Ross Barney. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I want to dive in and talk a little bit about the firm, and I want to start with the fact that your firm is largely focused on work in the public realm. What has driven interest in seeking that kind of work?
I have always been interested in working on public places. A couple reasons. One is I think they are so important to the quality of life and to the strength of a city or a living place. And the second reason is that when I'm working on public space, I can include myself as a client. So I feel empowered. I feel very responsible when I'm working on public space. If I'm designing your house, architects do beautiful houses, but it's still your house. I just think that the idea of a citizen being involved, a citizen architect, to me, that's so important.
So one of the things that you are known for is your belief that excellent design is a right, not a privilege. It seems like not just a slogan, it seems to be a core value of how you approach your work. Can you talk about how excellent design as a right influences what you choose to do and how you choose to do it?
When I started out, when I was a very young intern architect, I was working at Holabird and Root, a really old Chicago firm.
Wow.
And I met one of my mentors there, John Holabird. And John really helped me understand what an architect should be. And he helped my career, not so much by giving me privileges in the firm, but by being my ear and my advocate. But in any case, he told me that he and I worked on the noble projects. And I think sometimes when I think back on that, I think he was telling me, you're working on the smaller projects in the office, but don't worry about them because they're so noble. But what I took him to mean, and what I think really was in deep in his heart, was noble projects are the ones that make the most difference. They may not have the biggest budget, and some people might not even think about them as architecture. They might be at the fringes or the edges. If you know our work, we've done like train stations, we've done power plants, but they have such an impact on your life and on the quality of your daily life that they shouldn't be a privilege to be well designed. These are opportunities that we, the people, need to take advantage of. When I talk about design and its value, it is in the realization of the impact of these noble projects.
Do you think too, thinking about like the public focus of the work and thinking about being the citizen architect, how does that play out? I think about the Riverwalk and some of the work that you've done there. How did that influence that?
Oh, it helped. It helped. It helped so much. I'm a native Chicagoan. And so I think I had a really good idea of what the river was. I think that the involvement in the community helped me realize what the Riverwalk could be. I think looking at it the first time, I didn't have any idea. No, I did. I knew all the planning history. I had looked at the studies. It was not a new idea at that point. It was an idea that many architects and planners had looked at. But what my position did is it let me look at it as a Chicagoan, looking towards the future and being as creative as possible about it. The Riverwalk, in some ways, though, it is, even to me, it's a surprise.
So thinking about sustainability and how has it grown in your practice?
When I think about design, it's a very active thing. Design is making a solution, finding a solution. And to find a solution, you have to understand the parameters of the problem. You have to have the right problem, meaning that if you have to know program, you have to know budget, you have to know the characteristics and history of who it's for. And sustainability has always been one of those. Even if it hasn't been on the front line of asking questions, it's there. The economical use of any material, when you look at it in its basic form, is sustainability. The only thing that I have to say is because hindsight is 2020, but you can't see the future. And I think even though a lot of design are just city making or ideas that people have and actions that they take were not badly intentioned. We didn't mean to destroy our planet. What we meant was to be more efficient, to make better lives for people. But since you don't have that view of the future, sometimes you need to course correct. So for architects today, our course correction is sustainability. And in a lot of ways, it's existential. So it's outstripping these other criteria that we have. If we don't solve this one problem, it's like I said, it's as existential. We'll stop being who we are if we don't solve it. So for me, it's grown. I've always known that conservation and economy was part of what made good design, but understanding the impact and the importance it's been a growing experience. The first time I think I really thought about it a lot, I was a Peace Corps volunteer right after I got out of college, and I was in Costa Rica, and I was assigned to the national parks of Costa Rica. And in that capacity, I had to learn about ecologies and how to save them. And that really heightened my understanding and my desire to make things that are balanced, that are sustainable. So today we're really faced with making sustainable design the top line of any practice. Just because if we don't do it right, buildings use about a third of the energy and produce about a third of the carbon. If we don't fix this, we're not going to, the, this is the irony. The planet will still be here. It just won't be habitable by us.
Fair enough. Do you
Oh, and I was reading,
no,
you can
go
cut this out if you don't want to
that's
be
fine.
political, but today the Republican Speaker of the House said they're going to cut all the green spending, discretionary spending out of the budget. Or no, they're going to cut 30% out of it. I can't remember. I don't think there is any constituency that doesn't benefit from sustainability of the green initiatives. And not beyond that, I don't think there's any price that's too high because if you don't pay it, who cares?
Exactly. You've had the opportunity to work with some corporate partners and influence the way that the inside and outside have a relationship with one another. And it feels like that some of that mindset has found its way into those projects as well. Is that fair?
That is fair. I have to say, though, I have run into some corporate clients that I don't totally understand. However, that being said, no, and in so many ways, design is finding consensus,
Mm.
but it's consensus about values and about direction. It's not consensus particularly about what people normally think is design. Is this colonial or is it modern? Is it concrete or is it wood? It's
Right.
not consensus about those things. It's consensus about the overall ideas that will be incorporated into a project, its mission. And we've worked with corporate leaders that have been absolutely amazing when they concentrate on those core values and core missions. In fact, they're good at it. If their
Yeah.
companies are successful, they know how to do that. So most recently, for example, we've been working for McDonald's. They hired us. They told us what their vision was. As outsiders, we could look at it and be critical of how they're applying it to our particular project for buildings. For example, McDonald's has an amazing mission for sustainability. If you look at it on their website or it's on the website, they really mean to change the world. But they've been working primarily basically in their supply side, meaning that if we buy sustainable, whatever, eggs or potatoes, we have a
Sure.
huge impact on the marketplace. And they've done less on their buildings. One, because buildings are really tough. And then buildings are unique. Every McDonald's building is unique. It's on a separate spot of the earth. But when we started, for example, on their flagship here in Chicago, we read their corporate goals. They said they wanted to be good neighbors. And it turned out after we discussed it, that became the building value that a good neighbor
Mhm.
is sustainable. And it was really, when we came to that consensus, it was really easy to work. We had we had freedom to make suggestions to them, and they became advocates for ideas that were essential to the project. Corporations aren't that different than cities. It's just cities are a whole lot more people.
Yeah. So speaking of consensus, you have had a variety of collaborations with city governments and different levels of government. How do you build that collaborative environment with those kinds of bodies?
Not a whole lot differently than we approach corporate clients. The only thing is the forums may be slightly different.
Mm.
The first really public collaboration engagement that we did that was distinctively and effort was when we designed the replacement for the Murrah building in Oklahoma City.
Mm.
The situation was that the building had been destroyed by terrorist bomb, and the government, the U.S. government, wanted to replace it. But the people, the federal employees who were in the building when it was destroyed, didn't necessarily want to go back to that site. And GSA, who was our client, General Services Administration, asked us to create a community engagement. And we landed up having separate meetings. And the meetings varied. They would be one-on-one. Some of them were big meetings, but with the citizens of Oklahoma City, the leaders of Oklahoma City, the people who ran the building, the people who would be in the building. And those discussions, they were eye-opening to me, but they were the basis of coming to a way to go forward in that very difficult situation. And that, I think that may be the thing that's different about, back to your basic question about how do you engage a city, is you have to have the right forum to let people contribute. One thing we have learned over the years is you have to ask people questions that they can answer. There's some that they can't answer. They can't tell me what size steel beam to put in a building, but they know a lot about how they feel about their history, how they feel about their future, what's good in their community and what's bad in their community or what needs improvement. And so after you get the conversation about the right things, you actually become advocates of the same mission, the same idea, the same values. That's the biggest thing about community engagement. You learn a lot about the problem, but the best thing is it creates a consensus team to create a solution. You can't do good projects in the public realm without advocates. If it has a space has a lot less chance to be valued and beloved if people don't understand why it happened.
That's amazing. How do you this takes a large group of people together working inside the firm to make that happen. And how do you build mentorship within the firm to help take these ideas and get it throughout the staff and to bring people up?
Oh, that's a two-way street. Mentorship, it's not easy and it's really important. I think a lot of businesses in general are struggling with the idea of mentorship and training post-COVID. Even though it's wonderful we can all work from home, it leaves out the idea of, but how do I learn my trade? How do I learn my profession? How do
Yeah.
I become experienced if I'm sitting in my bedroom all by myself? And it's a toughie. In fact, our architects have been talking about this. I went to a meeting last week, and the discussion was, yes, we were very efficient when we started working remotely because people could concentrate only on their work. It felt very efficient. That was but it's one type of work.
Mhm.
Now, when we're doing all kinds of work, it's not so efficient to be separated when you're trying to make ideas or discuss alternatives. So I think in the long run, we'll live in a hybrid society, and hopefully that'll restore mentorship. Personally, in our company, we're I say this with some trepidation because flat means that nobody's the leader. Good leadership is important, but we like to create an environment where ideas and the contribution of ideas are the expectation that that's what you're being paid for. So you can't sit back and wait to be taught, and you can't sit back and wait to get an assignment. And your ideas, your good ideas become an active part of our design process and our solution. So that's broadly how we think about mentorship. But we encourage individuals to become involved in activities that are really important to them and share that with us and share it with the members of the firm who are interested in those things. We don't have a one-on-one mentorship program. There's a lot of other places they can get that, but we really are conscious about what people are learning and what they need to do their job and what they need to have the job-life balance that makes them really effective.
So, in thinking about how the public realm has changed in terms of work throughout your career, how has it changed? How has getting big buildings built changed with access to information and all the ways that people communicate? How has that impacted that?
Oh man, just in terms of communication and information from in the time I've been in practice, the change has been an amazing, like earth moving change. Personally, I think that a big thing for me that's changed is speed, how fast I can draw. I can draw a lot faster now. how much I can draw a lot more now. But what hasn't changed is the need for quality.
Mm.
And that's been a big deal. In terms of not technology or not data or not information, for me, the thing that's really changed the most is, I guess I'm struggling to describe it because I want to talk about public will. I think that public projects are so important. It's really sad sometimes to see one die. That would be just a tremendous improvement to a community or an environment because there's no public will, basically no way to pay for it.
Yeah.
I think that right now, one of the things in a way, in the century we're in, looking at the whole history of humanity, democracy is a new thing. The idea that we, the people, are going to decide. They say, okay, we did it 200 years ago or 250 years ago now in the U.S. But it's a new idea when you look over the sort of the history of mankind, of civilization. And I think that for me, the ultimate is when we, the people, decide on the quality of spaces. And right now, I think that's a little hard. I'm really proud of the Riverwalk because it's all public money.
Mm.
It really is us who built that. But I'm not sure I love the spaces, but there's some other spaces, a Highline in New York, for example, that's all individual donor contributions. And those donors are very generous and their hearts are gigantic. But I think I don't want people to buy things for us. I want us to decide what we need, which is an experiment in design and democracy.
That's a difficult thing to balance and to get done. Well, I want to thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to share your insights with me and our listeners. Until next time, this has been As Built.